welcome. I'm Victoria. I am the creator of Krafted by Koko. We are currently in our guest room where we run our stationery store here in North Carolina. I am so excited for today's video because we are going to be doing more of a Q&A style video along with a business recap into our small business, kind of like recapping how the year's gone so far and just giving you guys some updates. So I thought we'd kind of separate this out into two bits, where the first bit will be more of the Q&A and then the second bit will be more of like a recap on how our small business is going and things we see for our future and what we dream and hope for. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the questions. I asked you guys 4 questions on Instagram, probably twice, I think, and I never really did the first video from the Q&A. So I've compiled all of your questions and I'm going to try to answer them to the best of my ability. And hopefully I didn't leave any questions out, but hopefully we'll do this type of video in the future again and kind of re-update it, because as I'm growing in life, I'm also growing in my business. And it's just kind of nice to do these videos as almost like a little scrapbook of where we're going and how we're growing and all those things. So anyway, let's go ahead and start with question number 1. One question I've gotten and I haven't really shared on any platform is how Krafted by Koko got started. And I thought that would be a great question to answer first, just to kind of lay down who we are, how we started and all those things. Especially if you're new to our shop and you don't know about our small business. And I'll try to keep this brief because one thing, if you haven't watched any of my videos before, I can be long-winded. So I'm going to try to keep these answers brief. We started at the end of 2023, and how it all came about was I was on short-term disability with my job. I had Achilles surgery, and so I was out of work for quite a bit of time for recovery. And because of that, I was only making like partial amount of my pay. And when that happened, it was like I knew I was getting surgery, it was planned and everything, but I wasn't really like prepared financially to take that pay decrease for the short-term disability. And so I was looking up on YouTube how to financially budget, ways to organize. And I got into a deep dive on cash stuffing and found wonderful creators who kind of led the path in this small niche. And yeah, I really got into it and I ordered my first set, I think on Amazon. I ordered I still have it. It's like a, if I have a picture, I'll place it here, but I ordered just a like metallic pink type binder and plastic sleeves to go in them that like all came in as a bundle. And that's how I got started. I started pulling cash out and started really managing my groceries and my gas and all my spending money. I hadn't gotten into like savings envelopes and things like that. And I really got into it and was really enjoying cash stuffing. It was extremely helpful for me, but how that came into building Krafted by Koko is that I really wanted to have like an A9, A8 size. I loved the small mini sizes and there was no one on Etsy selling cash envelopes or anything of that nature in those sizes. And so I thought, okay, I'll make my own. So I borrowed a laminator from my mom and like, I think it was like 25 laminating sheets. It's like the pack that comes inside when you buy it. She had never really used it. And so anyway, I had my husband's printer that he was using for his job at the time. And I had my desktop, which I'm still using currently now, which I had from college. So everything was kind of like borrowed or things we already had. I didn't really do anything extra. The only thing I needed to buy was a cutter. So I went to Walmart and bought a paper cutter for like $15. And yeah, so I printed out some envelopes. I started making them, started working with the sizing, and finally came up with my A9 and A8 sizes and posted them on Etsy. I started on Etsy and it was just like that. I came up with the logo literally in like under an hour. Like it probably didn't even take 30 minutes. I came up with the Krafted by Koko logo, the Krafted by Koko name. Everything you see now is from back then. I haven't changed it or updated it or done any type of rebranding. So yeah, that is the story of Krafted by Koko. It is nothing like I had some master plan or was like, oh, I'm going to make this business into what it is today. I was just doing it for fun and thought, hey, I'll throw this out there. And then it kind of has grown and we've metamorphosized into what we are today, if that's how the word you would use for that. But we've just kind of morphed into what we are now and are growing and learning. And so, yeah, I'd say if you're interested in starting a small business, you don't need to have everything perfectly in place. You also don't need to have like the idea of what you want to be. Like, you can just have an idea of something you like and you want to put out there and put it out there. And that's kind of what I did. My first customer was obviously my mom. And then I had some friends also purchase from us, which was really helpful because then it showed sales on Etsy. And I think it was like 1 or 2, maybe 3 people that were friends that purchased. And then after that, it took like 2 or 3 months to finally get our first sale. So yeah, that's kind of where Krafted by Koko, that's where it all started. Another question that we've gotten, which I love this question so much, is why do we change our C's to K's? So if you've followed me on like Instagram or TikTok or here on YouTube, you might see sometimes that we'll switch our C's to K's. And the reason for that is because of Koko. Our dog and our mascot of our brand is our husky Koko. And we named her Koko. Originally, we adopted her from, they called her Mocha. And we just didn't really think that like fit her personality. And we were going over coconut because we thought coconut would be cute because of her red and tan color along with her white. We just thought that would like match like a coconut. Then we kind of shortened that down to Koko. She is a mascot of, our brand because it's called Krafted by Koko. Just had gotten her when we started Krafted by Koko, and that's why she inspired the name, because I'm literally obsessed with her and I'm obsessed with our other puppy Kinsley too. Like, my dogs are my life. 2 years ago, I think it was, I was posting something on Instagram and I swapped the K for a C when I said confidence. And I thought that was so cute. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of like bringing in the branding from Koko and Krafted. And so then I started doing it more, especially because a lot of the words we use in this community, we use cash, we obviously make paperclips, and, collections or whatnot. And I thought it would be such a cute idea to kind of switch the C's with K's as like a little branding thing. And a lot of you guys have picked up on it, and you'll even like respond back in a comment on an Instagram post or here on YouTube or wherever, and you'll swap your C's for K's. That would be like a really cute little branding thing to do, and it just kind of happened naturally. And I just tried it once and I'm like, oh, I really like it. And people started doing it back with me and their comments back on my posts, and I just thought it was really cute. So we just thought, it would match our Krafted by Koko branding. So yeah, that is the story as to why we changed the C's to K's. Just a little bit of Krafted by Koko branding and cuteness. And yeah, so that's kind of where they came up with. So this next question is going to be a little bit hard for me to answer because I don't think I have an answer for this question. This question is, how do Brent and I balance our full-time jobs and Krafted by Koko, and what do we do for work? So Brent and I both work full-time jobs, and we do Krafted by Koko. And to answer what we do for work first, so Brent is a manager at a wood treatment facility, and basically he pressurized treats lumber, and this allows it to be like in water for piers or just, hang outside in the terrain of rain and things like that. He probably could speak to this better than me, but he's not camera friendly like I am. We're still working on that with him. And yeah, so he does that. Every day he is pressure treating wood, like doing all the chemical mathematics to make sure all the chemicals are right, testing it and all that stuff. As far as me, I work in clinical research. I've been doing this for about 3 years now. I work remotely, and my shift typically is 8 to 5. And Brent normally works around those same hours. He gets off a little bit earlier than me and goes in earlier than me. But yeah, so we kind of have the same schedule. We work Monday through Friday. We have our evenings off and our weekends. So as far as balancing Krafted by Koko and our full-time jobs, I have to say we do not do a great job. So don't take any advice from me on how to do that. Maybe just take advice on what not to do. The biggest thing I can say that we do is we just try to stay as organized as possible. With that, it's keeping a calendar. It could be writing down notes, communicating between each other. We're trying this year some new things, which is like kind of like mapping out our launches and our doggy bags, our like mystery bundles and things like that. Whereas last year we did none of that. We didn't really have anything like mapped out. This year we started doing that, and you know, we have things that are like kind of loosey goosey, but we have like an idea of when we want to do things versus like, this is the date, this is the date. You know, it's kind of a little bit more vague, but at least there's like a roundabout idea. And I think that helps us as far as like the overall arching picture of Krafted by Koko. As far as the day-to-day operations with Krafted by Koko, I have to say that, you know, that kind of system we've gotten down, and we are able to like fulfill our orders and work our full-time job because we've set our processing time to 10 to 15 business days. That's not including weekends and holidays. So having a longer processing time does help us because we like to maximize our weekends. Maximizing our weekends is huge because that's when we can get a lot of our work done. Ways to kind of like keep it balanced so we're not feeling like we're working all the time is I love my mornings. I love to wake up and just have a coffee and like just like slowly wake up. That's just like how I love to have my mornings, and Brent is the same. So sometimes we will do that in the morning, or we'll wake up super early and go for a walk with the girls to keep Koko and Kinsley moving and grooving, because we do have huskies and they're very high energy. So we at least like to take them on a walk every single day. And then if we only do one walk a day, which is about normal of what we do, and it's not like just like a 10-minute walk, we go on like an hour-long walk. But if we don't do our long walk, then we will play with them outside and do like fetch, or we'll literally chase them. They love to be chased around our backyard. So yeah, I think it's just about finding moments in between like all the craziness to just like take a deep breath and relax. I can't say that it's been easy. There's times where, you know, there's been so much pressure on both of us to get things done. And, you know, you do get tired and you do get burned out. And so I think, you know, one thing that we've been trying this year is taking that time, take a step back and, you know, take a rest and enjoy each other's company. Life is short. You know, you don't want to be working, you know, 24 hours all the time. You also want to stop and smell the roses. And so we often like to do that and spend time with each other, you know, and just quality time is really important, and a time with our families. We love our families and we love spending time with them. And so if we can take a weekend off and go visit them, then we'll be doing that as well. So yeah, I think you just kind of figure it out, and that's what we've been doing. We've been just trying to figure it out. Another question we got was, do we ever plan to take Krafted by Koko full time? And I definitely think that would be amazing if we were so blessed to be able to take it full time. That is definitely a goal of ours. We want to take Krafted by Koko seriously. You know, Krafted by Koko started as a little creative hobby for me, just something fun to do. And it's turned into such a beautiful thing for me mentally, to be honest with you. I've not really shared this, but I had a really hard time when I was going through my Achilles surgery. Just mentally, I was in a really hard place. And so when I started making and creating things for Krafted by Koko, it was a beautiful outlet for me. Actually gets me kind of emotional thinking about it, because I was really struggling. And being able to create and design, working with my hands and just making an idea come to life, kind of brought me back to a place where I hadn't been in a long time. You know, I'm a very creative person, and I had been just kind of lost, and I didn't have a creative outlet. I didn't really have anything like that at the time, and I didn't know that's what I needed. And so me just making a set of cash envelopes with a borrowed laminator, and then it turning into me wanting to make charms and paper clips, and it just literally made my life so much beautiful and gave me so much joy. And I never want Krafted by Koko to turn into something that is stressful, because it is a beautiful thing for me. It is a beautiful thing to be able to make something out of my imagination and also just share that with y'all. I just never want to lose that too. So I want to make sure that when we can do Krafted by Koko full time, that we can still keep that energy, that we can still have that creative outlet. And so, and never lose sight of that, because that is ultimately why we started this in the first place. Switch up the location just a little bit so it doesn't get too stale of a video, because I know sometimes these talking videos can become a little bit boring after time. Sorry, I'm just fixing my bangs. Last November, I asked you guys some questions on Instagram, and I thought I would run through those really quick. And so yeah, here are some of the questions that you guys asked me. One is, how do you pick your themes? So when it comes to picking our themes, oh gosh, I'd have to say that I don't really have like an answer to that. A lot of times it's odd, but I will get ideas in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping on whether it's a theme or just like an idea of like a way to do a cash envelope or a way to make a paper clip or to design something. And I'll get a lot of my inspiration in the middle of the night when I'm sleeping. And if I'm lucky, I will remember the next day, and I will either like write it down or I will put it in like my notes app on my computer. But I'd have to say that a lot of my ideas for my themes do come in the middle of the night. Obviously, I'm very like a seasonal person. I love just the different seasons. So in the spring and summer and fall and winter, I'm very much emotionally, I guess, influenced or inspired by the seasons changing. What I love about that season, and you know, sometimes that'll help me kind of spark an idea. And then other times, you know, it could be something that I like saw, you know, like we live out in the country and we have a lot of cornfields and we have a lot of just like farming in general. And so like my recent, I think, savings challenge that I launched was family of mushrooms who own a tomato farm. And, you know, it's just things like that, just silly little ideas that I have that I want to turn into real life. And so I think that's kind of how I kind of come up with my themes, but I don't know, maybe in a year from now I'll answer differently. Another question I got is, what are your favorite budgeting tools? So my favorite budgeting tools, I would have to say, obviously, are my cash envelopes. I think that's like the main staple that I use that really is helpful. And then I would say I also love Excel. I love using Excel or Google Sheets, anything where I can kind of like write everything down and put into like that type of format. I really enjoy just having like lists in general. And so when I'm looking at our budget, I like to do like a review at least once a year, but sometimes I'll even do it every quarter, where I will pull up my bank app and I will go through all of our subscriptions. I will go through all of the withdrawals that are happening. If it's any kind of reoccurring bill that I have drafted out, I like to put that in like a different place on Excel. Even though I love paper and pen and doing that sort of thing, like for like daily tasks, if I'm looking at a huge overview, I definitely say that has been a really good tool for me. Okay, another question. Where do you get all your inspiration from? I think I've already kind of answered that already when I talked about the themes, but I would say I live in a more like rural country town. And so being in this beautiful place outdoors is super inspiring for me. And I think just taking in life and also thinking back on your memories, I think it really inspires me. Also too, like when it comes to our paper clips, I think sometimes I have like an idea for a theme for a collection that has come to me. And then I want to have paper clips that can go along, or planner charms that go along with that theme. And then sometimes I'm looking through supplies, because obviously we don't make all of our beads. Like we don't make our charms and beads in-house. So I'll be looking through supplies online and looking at purchasing different things. And I'll see something and be like, oh my gosh, that is so cute. I love this charm. What kind of collection would fit that charm? Like sometimes it could be a little charm that strikes an idea in my head for something bigger. So yeah, I say that's where I get my inspiration from. Let's see, next question. So story on how you found your fur babies. I guess I'll start with Koko. Koko, it's a funny story. The job I used to work at, I had a coworker who had a litter of huskies, and he kept asking for me to come look at them. And I kept saying no, because I knew if Brent and I went and saw these huskies that we were going home with one. And then eventually he showed me pictures. And so I sent them to Brent, and Brent is like a huge animal person. Like he If there's a chance to look at puppies anywhere, he will say no because he will probably adopt them all. He loves animals so much. And like when I like met Brett originally, he had a cat. And it's like not normal that guys have cats. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never met many single guys who have cats. And maybe that's changed. That was a long time ago. But, and I loved cats. So I'm like, oh my God, this guy, he has a cat. Like how cool. That's very shallow of me, but there's more to him than him just having a cat. But anyways, so we didn't go look at the puppies. He sent me a picture of the puppies. I sent the picture to Brent. Brent said, okay, let's go look at them. We went and looked at them. And the one puppy that we were super interested in was Koko. She was the only like mocha brown colored one that was of the litter. I guess technically considered a red husky. And she was the only red one of the bunch. We did not know she was going to be like woolly, like she is. I guess technically she is more of a woolly husky. She's or long haired. And both her parents were short-haired huskies. I don't know how that happened, but she was the only long-haired husky out of the bunch. And we obviously didn't know that when we adopted her. We just started seeing as she got older, her hair was growing longer and she had longer hair than a normal like husky had. And so when we were thinking of adopting another dog for Koko to have a friend, because, you know, me and Brent are both working full time and she was home alone, and huskies can have anxiety and they're used to packs. And we knew we wanted to get her a friend. And so we wanted it to be the same breed of dog. So they had the same energy and they could be like in this like pack mentality between the two of them. And so that's how we found Kinsley. We actually found her in Charlotte, North Carolina. And she is just literally the sweetest little thing in the universe. We love our dogs like to death. They are literally our whole entire world. Okay, next question. Some of these are asking, like this next question is asking, can we get a desk tour? And yes, you can definitely get a desk tour. I want to do a full, and I've been saying this, and I'm sorry I haven't done it yet, but I want to do a full office tour at some point here in the near future. So stay tuned for that. Okay, so the next question is, can we see some of your binders and wallets that you use? And yes, you certainly can. I'm not going to show them in this video here. I plan on doing a full binder and wallet like kind of tour of my setup currently. I'm just not going to do that in this video here, but stay tuned for that because I do want to start posting like regular cash stuffings and taking you guys along on that journey as well. And so I thought showing you guys my binders and wallets and what I'm using now would be like a good first video. So I'll be hopefully posting that here in the near future. Okay, so next question is, what advice would you give to someone who's paying debt or doing the snowball effect? I would say probably the best advice I can give is start with the lower limit credit card. For me, like seeing the higher limit credit cards was really stressful for me, and sometimes was like really overwhelming and kind of made me just like not want to try it all. And like I kind of like felt defeated, I guess, just even looking at that number. And so I think starting with like, if you have multiple credit cards, for instance, that's like kind of the situation I was in. I had multiple credit cards that I had like maxed out or was close to maxing out. And so I took the lowest credit card that I had, and I think it was like a $3,000 limit. And I just was like, I'm going to pay this one off. And so I would pay my normal, like, you know, credit card payments, like for what I needed to every month, like on the higher revolving limits, credit cards, if I'm making sense. And then the lower credit card, which was $3,000, instead of paying the $200 payment or whatever it was at the time, I would put like $300 or $400. And I would just continue to put as much as I could into paying that one off. And then once that was gone, like paid off, I just like, you know, set that credit card aside and said, you will not touch this. You're not allowed to touch this. And I just started working on the next one. But I think being able to like feel accomplished and paying off that first credit card gave me momentum to go to the next step. And I think that that's why the snowball effect is really helpful with the smallest thing, and make those small wins and celebrate them, and don't let it like, you know, get you down by trying to attack everything all at once or going to the biggest thing first. Sometimes it is just taking those small steps forward. Okay, let's see. What's your favorite thing to do in your spare time is the next question. Okay, I love this. Say my favorite thing to do. It's hard because I have a lot of things that I like to do. I love to say that I love to read and write poetry or something like that, but that is not me. I like to read when I find a good book, but I have a really hard time finding like the stillness to read. But that is something I love to do. But I would say one thing Brent and I love to do together when we have spare time is to watch a documentary. We love documentaries. We love just anything. It could be anything historical. It could be a murder mystery, like whatever it is. We love watching a documentary series. We also love obviously playing with our huskies and going on walks with them. I think that is something we love to do in our spare time, just getting outside and being with nature and things like that. When I'm with my family, we love playing board games. We are a big board game family. We love playing any type of board game you can think of, or video games. We like playing video games too. And so I also used to love playing my flute and playing music. I am a musician and I would love to start picking that back up again. I haven't played my flute in like forever. That's what I originally went to school for, was to be a professional flautist, playing in orchestras and things like that. And so I'd love to pick it back up and just play. And I think that that would be a fun hobby for me to kind of like get back into. Yeah, so I guess like those are kind of like my hobbies, or my favorite things to do. I love to cook too. I love cooking. I love baking. Anything around food is like my heart and soul. So, but yeah, that's a little bit about things that I like to do. Next question is, who or what inspires you to keep going with your business/work? So I wouldn't say, it says who or what. So I wouldn't say it was a who, but I would say that it's something that maybe is instilled in me from a very young age. My parents had small businesses when, we were growing up, and they still are running them now. And so I'd say that growing up, working since I was like 9, bussing tables or washing dishes on the weekend at my parents' restaurant. And then doing that like all throughout college, working doubles. I bartended at night and I worked in the morning at their restaurant, in the summer seasons, because we lived in Myrtle Beach and it was very like seasonal. You work during the summer. And so I would collect my cash in the summer and like a squirrel, just, collect my nuts and wait for winter. And that's kind of how it was. And so I'd say like, I just think that I had a really good work ethic because my parents had me working at such a young age. And I really appreciate that I had the opportunity to do that. And so when I think about my business and, that, I think about the hard work. Probably, yeah, maybe it is a who, because I do think about my mom and I think about my dad. And I think about how hard they worked for their children, how hard they worked for me in my future. Oh my God, it's going to get me emotional. And so, yeah, I think when I think about my business, I think about my future children, and I think about how I want to be able to give to them. And I want them to be able to see that they can do anything that they set their mind to. And so when I think about keeping going, or if I want to give up, I think about my parents, and I also think about my, future children as well. Okay, next question is, how do you get started crafting these pins and clips? Your work is admirable. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you, Jasmine. Oh, that's Jasmine. Jasmine Plans. Thank you so much, Jasmine. So I got started doing these paper clips. I think how I thought of the idea of doing it was I had seen a jewelry artist on Instagram or some type of social media. I saw a jewelry artist doing this wired work, and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I'm like, wow, that is so gorgeous. And I knew I wanted to kind of, do something other than just cash envelopes. And I loved the way people were decorating paper clips at the time. They were putting charms on them and different things, but nobody had done this wire work. And so I was and maybe there has been people that have done it. So I'm sorry if you're watching this and you did it way before me, but at the time I hadn't seen anything on Etsy or anywhere that I had, checked before. And so I had saw this jewelry artist making beautiful things and like wrapping these crystals with wire. And I thought, oh my gosh, how beautiful would that be to do that to a paper clip? That's a paper clip's metal. You know, the wire is like a form of like metal or, you know, some sort, I don't, metal, copper, aluminum or whatnot. And maybe I could take these beads or crystals or charms or whatnot and wire them on a paper clip and make it like decorative for the planning and stationery, budgeting, cash stuffing community. And so that's kind of how I got started. I just like bought some wire from like Michael's or Hobby Lobby or something and started just playing around with it and then created our first pieces. And then it got me like so into like this thing where, oh my God, I want to like try this type of paper clip. I want to do this type of thing, you know, with the wire and all that. And so, yeah, I just kind of went off on a deep dive, collecting different beads and charms and such, and trying to create new work from it. And so I think that's kind of how it all got started, is just being inspired by another artist. And I think sometimes that is such a beautiful thing, to get inspired by each other and think of something that you haven't seen before and trying it out and testing it. And yeah, it was just really fun to kind of put that out there. And it's been kind of so much fun to see how, you know, it's grown, that now you guys are really enjoying our work and putting them inside your planners as like deco, or using them as a paper clip for your papers or a bookmark. And so it's been really fun to see you guys using all of the paper clips in your binders and wallets. It literally brings us so much joy when we see a setup that has our paper clip in it. You guys have no idea. So another question that I get often, but I haven't really had it like asked for this specific Q&A, is how Brent got started working for Krafted by Koko, or like started helping more with the business, and then like how we divide our responsibilities. And I'd have to say that I don't really remember when he started. It kind of feels like he's always been doing it, like, to be honest. But there was a time when I started on Etsy, it was like the first maybe year and a half, that he wasn't helping make anything, you know, like I think maybe once in a while I'd have him like come and help me like cut some thank you cards. And that was like about it, or some like paperclip backings. But yeah, it was really hard to kind of keep up with my full-time job and then running Krafted by Koko by myself and trying to grow it all at the same time. I was also trying to figure out like social media. I had never really been a big poster on my like personal page, and I never really edited videos or did anything like that. And so I was trying to figure out how to like get more of an audience to my Etsy. And you know, all that kind of stuff was just so hard to handle by myself. And then I think one day he had like picked up something that I was working on to see if he could do it. And he did such a great job. I'm like, wow, that looks really good. And, you know, I never really thought of it because he does play guitar. So he's, you know, he has to use the wire to string his guitar all the time. His hands are calloused from his work. And so, you know, and he's very detail oriented. I never thought like, hey, let me see if he can help me. And then it was just that one moment where he like kind of just like picked it up, that I was like, okay, you need to help me make these. And so he started practicing, and he eventually like got to where he is now, where he's just like running the head of paperclip department. You know, he's the head of paperclip department. And so that's kind of how it like started. It just kind of started naturally like that. How we divide our responsibilities now is pretty simple. He does everything paperclip related, and he also helps make the cottages as well that the paper clips go inside of. He makes those as well. So he's in charge of that department. And then I am in charge of all the paper goods. So I make all the cash envelopes, all the paper items. He will help me every now and then make like the paperclip backings or freebies. He'll make those as well. But for the most part, if it's anything to do with the paper items, I'm responsible for that, and he's responsible for paper clips. And then, so what's interesting is, you know, obviously a lot of our customers are females. So when it comes to like designs and collections, I kind of spearhead all of that. I'm like the head of the creative department, I guess you'd say. And I will kind of like lead Brent as to what theme we're going with for a launch, but that doesn't say that he can't have like ideas about it, and he certainly has. And so he'll be like, well, what about this or what about that? But for the most part, I think like I'll kind of come up with the overarching theme, and then I will even go as far as you know, finding and purchasing supplies. And then when we do a launch, I'll lay all of our supplies out there for paper clips or planner charms, and we'll like kind of look at it. And then we'll kind of play around with what we think would look good. And then he'll go to the drawing board and start using the supplies I purchased to design something. And I don't tell him how I want it designed. I'm just like, hey, I thought these items or these materials would be cool on a paper clip and look really nice. And he'll come up with his own unique design. Now, that's kind of like how we divide our responsibilities. I am obviously in charge of our social media, in charge of our YouTube. Mainly, I'm the sole person updating the website. Brent helps out with that as well when he can. So yeah, that's kind of like how we divide out our responsibilities. I'd say like him being in charge of all the paper clips has been like a huge help for me. Because that is a very big part of our business. You guys are loving the paper clips, and we're just so thankful for how much you guys have really enjoyed them, and can't thank you guys enough for your support. Brent really enjoys making every single one, and he is very meticulous in his work. If you guys only see him when he's making the paper clips, he's just so adorable. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of how we divide out our work, and it really works for us. I think it's hard sometimes being a couple working together. I'm not going to lie. You know, there's times where it's challenging because, you know, sometimes when we are having a date or we're going for a walk, we want to talk business. You know, we don't always want to talk about like just normal stuff. And so we kind of have to catch ourselves doing it. But I think what helps us still like separate business and like our relationship is just having the quality time for each other. But it's also fun to just spend quality time up here together creating things. So it's just a win-win altogether. But it's been the best thing for me to have him helping. And it's honestly, I wouldn't be able to grow this business without him. Like there's no way I could do this all by myself. Anyway, that is kind of like the gist of how we divide out the responsibilities between the two of us. Okay, so that wraps up the Q&A portion of this video. Thank you guys so much for submitting questions to us. I really appreciate you guys doing that. And if you do have any other questions, you can feel free to put them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer them in the comment section, but also maybe I'll do another Q&A in the future. You never know. Thought we'd go ahead and transition now over to the more like shop update and like kind of just updating you where our shop is and things like that and how the year is going for us so far. Thought I'd first start with how things are going so far this year and what's going well. To say the one thing that is going really well for us this year is, I think I talked about this in the previous video I did when I did like our first year on Shopify, like recap, like a goal that we had set in that video, if you go back and watch it, was being more organizing and strategic this year. And so I think that has been going really well for us. I think us organizing our launches, organizing when we're doing our doggy bags, and just kind of mapping out the calendar has made our lives so much easier. It's allowed us to like take more room to be creative, you know, rather than feeling like we are constantly shooting from the hip. We are actually being able to like say, oh, we know this is coming up, so let's take our time, like creativity. Let's take our time creatively thinking of what's next and how can we make a new collection that we would love to launch during this time, or so on and so forth. So I'd say organizing has helped us tremendously this year. It's been so nice. I think another thing that's going really well is our YouTube channel. I am so happy to say that we are finally a YouTube partner. So that's really exciting. I have to say that posting on YouTube more regularly has been really fun. I really enjoy doing it. It's just, I don't know, it's just so much different than posting short form content. I feel like I'm actually able to share with you guys who I am. Like you might see a short form video of me and be like, gosh, she's so goofy. And that's because that's really how I am. I'm very goofy, I'm quirky, and you might not pick up on that in a short form video, but if you get to know me here, you might understand a little bit about who I am and, you know, where I come from. And I have gotten over my fear of posting on here, which has been nice. I really enjoy spending time with you guys here. Another thing that's going really well this year on more of a personal note is me being able to add in going to the gym. I think like being able to work out I work out Monday through Friday, every single day of the week. I work out for about an hour and a half. And I feel like that has like been so, I honestly never thought I'd be able to do that. And because I was so nervous about taking time away from Crafted by Koko, you know, getting out of work at 5, then going to the gym at 5:30, working out till about 6:37, coming home, showering, and then starting on Crafted by Koko, hell no, there's no way I'd have any time to get anything done. But I'd say that me actually working out and adding that into my routine has given me more energy and has me like thinking more clearly and being more focused. So I think like actually like putting more energy into myself is actually helping the business and me manage my time. And it's definitely helped my performance in my full-time job as well. So overall, my whole life has benefited from me starting to take better care of myself. So that is one really big thing that has changed so far this year. So thinking about like more of the challenges, or I guess you'd say things we want to like kind of update and take a bigger look at is, I think the biggest thing right now is just our time. You know, we are spending a lot of time on Crafted by Koko. And when you look back at, you know, how much you're making each month after you take out your cost and materials and shipping and all those things, and then you also factor in your time, are you making a profit? Is it sustainable? You know, those types of questions that you would ask if you're like a small business owner. I had asked those questions before, but I didn't really take them maybe as seriously because we were just starting and we were trying to grow. And now as we've been growing and we're still growing, but as we're like thinking about taking the business more seriously and taking Crafted by Koko more seriously and wanting it to grow and potentially be a full-time thing for us, you know, we have to take it even more seriously, how our time is factored into that. And I know when we first started, we were definitely not like probably paying ourselves enough. And I think that's something a lot of small businesses probably can relate to. If you're a small business and you're watching this right now, I'm sure you probably would agree that you don't always accurately charge for the time that it takes to make your product. And I do think that that is something Brett and I made a mistake on early on, is that we were, you know, not necessarily paying ourselves enough. And so I think that's something that I want to look at a little bit more in detail as we go into the further of the year. Thinking about growth and thinking about growing the business is also being able to add in structure. And we didn't really like have a huge master plan when we first started Crafted by Koko. As you know, like from hearing earlier parts of this video, it wasn't like there was this big master plan and we had it all like, you know, thought out. And so as we've grown, we've kind of like shot from the hip and made decisions. And, you know, as we're growing through some of those things, we, you know, and thinking about the future and how we want things to look, we know we probably need to alter the way we've been doing some things and add a little bit more structure to it. Especially now that we are growing, you know, I'm getting requests for, you know, paid partnerships or different collaborations. Also wholesale inquiries. People are requesting a lot of wholesale orders and things like that. And honestly, I don't really know how to respond to some of these things. I've never done those things before. I've never really thought about it in a more like formal structure or business type of way. And so I think that, you know, as we're starting to grow, I'm noticing these things and I'm like, oh, wow, I should really have like an actual like thought process involved in this and think of how we want this to look. Probably need to add a little bit more structure into place. And that's kind of what me and Brian have been talking about now, is like, how do we want to do collaborations with other small businesses or influencers or different brands who want to partner with us? And what about wholesale? How do we want to approach wholesale orders when we get those requests? Those are all questions we hadn't really thought about. And so now we're starting to think about them a little bit more seriously now and wanting to add a little bit more structure into place. And so that might change the way things are like in our business, you know, might change the way we collaborate with others. You might see more collaborations with smaller businesses and us, but we just don't really know how to like structure it. And so it's kind of giving us an idea of like, we need to get this into place now so we know how to like handle it in the future and it'll be best for our business. And so I think that's something Brett and I want to do, is kind of sit down and map out what we want for Crafted by Koko so we know what our goals are. And that probably will change, I'm sure, like a million times. But as long as me and him are on the same page, me and Brent are on the same page, and we know what we want from Crafted by Koko, we know what we see with it, our vision, then we can kind of start approaching those different opportunities and thinking about it in a more structured way that aligns with like our end game goals, like our goals for Krafted by Koko. You know, if it all aligns with that, that's all that really matters. I think a challenge that we've had, to be honest with y'all, so far this year is not really in being able to anticipate how many sales or orders we're going to have coming in either daily, weekly, or monthly. It's been kind of all over the place, to be honest, this year. And I know that we're still in the early phases of our business. And I know that there's things like happening in the world that can be impacting that, obviously, with the economy and inflation and all those things. But it still makes it very challenging to like think of taking this like full time. You know, if things are constantly like up and down like a roller coaster, then it kind of makes me nervous to like rely on that solely. And so I think honestly what I'm doing to kind of combat that is if it's a slower day or slower week or month or whatever phase we're in at that moment and it's just slower, I'm trying to take that time to create more. I'm trying to take that time to be editing a YouTube video or doing something like that. But it is, I'm not going to lie, kind of challenging mentally to like have a bad week or a bad month. You know, it kind of like makes me think of what I did wrong. You know, was it my social media? Like, did I not post enough videos that week or that day? You know, whatever the case may be, it makes me think about what I did wrong. So I think it's just about riding that wave and not letting it get me down. I'm trying to just stay positive and keep doing what I'm doing, you know? And I think as long as I'm having fun doing it, then, you know, it's a good place. I think if I start putting too much pressure on myself, then it starts to feel forced. And so I try not to do that. I try to just be thinking, okay, I don't have a lot of orders this week to make. So I'm going to create some new items and I'm going to edit a YouTube video. I try to maximize that time, or I'm going to try to get ahead on orders, or you know what, I'm going to take the day off because I'm tired and I want to rest today. You know, I think it's just about finding that balance and not getting too hard on myself, but it is really hard to, you know, do that. So I'm hoping as this year goes on that the consistency will be a little bit more leveled out. And then even going into next year that maybe, you know, we'll see that it's, you know, getting better. But yeah, that's kind of like the real truth and hard facts of the truth. So yeah, that is kind of our little like recap of where we are with the business right now and with Krafted by Koko. And I really appreciate you guys for staying till the end of this video and watching the Q&A and you know, and if you submitted a question, thank you guys so much for submitting a question to us. We really appreciate everyone who is taking an interest in Krafted by Koko and us as individuals. It really means so much to us, and I really thank you guys for being here. It's so nice to be able to share with you guys like the reality of us and who we are and our small business and our journey and what we're going through. It's been really refreshing to share this with you guys on YouTube, and I hope you guys are enjoying just watching us along the way. I'm not sure if it's interesting or not, but hopefully you're enjoying it. Thank you guys so much for following along on our journey of running a small business and trying to make it out there in the real world. I really appreciate you guys watching, and yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.